ever been by a girl like this?
Strain, the monstrous assurance of this race of puny bipeds with overblown egos. The creature who calls himself man. He believes he owns the earth, and every living thing on it exists only for his benefit. Yet how foolish he is. Consider, even the lowly insect that man trods underfoot outweighs humanity several times, and outnumbers him by countless billions. In the continuing war for survival between man and the hexapods, only an utter fool would bet against the insect. Let a man or woman venture from the well-beaten path of civilization. Let him cross the threshold of the limited intellect, and he encounters amazing, wondrous things, the unknown and terrible. If he escapes these weird adventures with his life, he will usually find he left his reason behind him. Perhaps that is what happened to these two souls, lost in the great Mexican desert.
The following is a paid advertisement. Really? A paid advertisement? Wait, the B-Movie Cast got paid? Yes, the following is a paid advertisement. This episode of the B-Movie Cast is brought to you by the estate planning services of Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law. Remember, when the zombie apocalypse comes, things will move pretty fast.
The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any arrangements.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't give them time to make funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the street and burned. They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
So don't leave your estate planning needs until the last minute, because you don't know when that last minute could come. Call Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, at 859-351-2294. That's 859-351-2294. Remember, when you go, you don't want people saying,
"Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up."
Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, is licensed for practice in the state of Kentucky. Consult your local attorney for matters outside of the state of Kentucky.
Command mark. The time will be running at X-20 seconds. Mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
Spawned by the continuing decline and fall of society as we know it, and created on the second-floor spare-bedroom studio in the Piedmont of South Carolina. Podcasting on a shoestring budget and changing the world one freak at a time. It's the B-Movie Cast with your host, Vince Rotolo.
From coast to coast and worldwide via the internet, this is the B-Movie Cast, the podcast of unusual film and television.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the B-Movie Clubhouse for episode 512 of the B-Movie Cast. Before I go any farther, I want to get our contact information out of the way. We love hearing from all of you, so we have a feedback segment devoted to your comments and suggestions, and this is how you can contact us. Option 1, pick up your phone and dial 888-936-0808. This is a toll-free number and a very easy way to leave a voice message. Option 2, you can make your own MP3 file and send it in to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Or use your smartphone voice software and record a call, then just send that in as an attachment instead. Or option 3, if you're not into talking, you can just shoot us an email to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Our website is bmoviecast.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast. It's free, and there you can join us on the Facebook bmoviecast fan page and letterbox. Also, you can play the contest by sending in your answer by email to bmoviecast@gmail.com with contest in the subject line. And check out the links while you're there, or buy a t-shirt. I currently have smalls to 4Xs. If you want to help us financially, there's a donation box you can click on as a supporter on the Lugosi, Karloff, Agar, and the infamous Xanadu level through PayPal. Also, the easiest way to donate is to click on the Amazon bar on the right side of our homepage. This Amazon link will take you to Amazon.com to make your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can still log into your personal accounts when you get there. It's completely private, so think about us before you buy online. We have our co-host from Lexington, Kentucky, author, editor, screenwriter, film producer, Nic Brown. He has a new website, and it is authornicbrown.com. That's AUTHORNICBROWN.com. He's the author of the Werewolf for Hire series starting with Blood Curse. He's also selling a series of books in collaboration with his wife, Fiona Young Brown, called the B-Movie Cookbooks. All of these are available on Amazon. He has produced 3 movies. The first 2 are Wretch and Loss Prevention, both of which could be ordered on Blu-ray or DVD through Amazon. And he is also the producer of the award-winning film Fall of Usher, which is now available for purchase or rental on iTunes and Amazon streaming. Also joining us today is Juan from the Creepy Swamps. His new and improved website is up and running now. It's called fifthdimensionfilms.net. That's the number 5, THDIMENSIONFILMS.net. He has been a sci-fi horror convention fixture for 25 years now, selling everything from DVDs to posters and collectibles. He's done a documentary called Mexican Monsters on the March. It's a 6-part documentary describing Mexican cinema history, monsters, and, of course, Santo. It's available on Juan's website. And if you'd like to see Juan in his younger days, watch the movie Red Heat from 1988. Juan is the street thug in a green Paul's Junkyard t-shirt with a wig on and a heavy New York accent. And today's film is a Juan pick. Today's movie is the 1953 Grade Z sci-fi horror film. Should I say classic? I don't know. It's called Mesa of Lost Women. The original script was called Tarantula. It was supposed to be a serious drama set in Mexico about a plane crash, survivors, but they couldn't find distribution. So Southern exploitation icon Ron Ormond took it over and decided to add a mad scientist and a giant spider. It's narrated by Lyle Talbot and has flashbacks very similar to Plan 9. There's a rumor going around that Ed Wood had something to do with it, but I've yet to see any documentation for this. Other than many of the same performers are in it, including Dan Reisner, Vampire's husband, and it does the narration in flashback format like Plan 9 from Ed Wood's 1957 film. But Wood and Ormond were very good friends, and both were also good friends of Bela Lugosi, so that might explain some of it. This movie wanders around the Muerto Desert of Death, and ends on Zarpa Mesa, with some side trips to a hospital and a cantina. The story is hopelessly muddled. The flamenco guitar will drive you crazy. The mad scientist living in a cave on a mesa is, of course, telepathic. And there are so many characters that you kind of just give up after a while and go with it. But you really need to see this flick if you want to complete your viewing of low-budget sci-fi horror movies from the 50s. And if you enjoyed Plan 9. I watched it on channel on my cable lineup called YTA, in a program on Saturday nights called Macabre Theater. It has an Elvira-like horror host, and shows weird B and Z movies. Also some Bava, some Paul Naschy, Juan Ibanez, and they're playing Dracula in a woman's prison with Nick's friend Victoria DeMar. So far. The print wasn't really good. I watched it, but then I ended up watching it again on Amazon Prime because they had a much better print of it. And you need a good print because it is confusing.
I was going to say, Mary, a good print doesn't make the movie less confusing. It just makes it give you less of a headache.
It's very dark, too. It's a dark film.
Yeah. So, oh well. Before we go on with anything, I want to mention Patrick Kelly sent me an email, and he said back in 1986 he appeared in a quiz show called the Pennsylvania Game. It was taped at WPSU TV State College and was aired on all Pennsylvania PBS stations. This was back in 1986. I had no idea the recording had survived and that it was stashed on a PBS Internet archive. So he's on a game show called the Pennsylvania Game.
Cool.
He said, I don't expect you to watch the whole show, but at least check out the movie question. This question concerns Philadelphian Brian De Palma. I wish I could say I aced the film question, but truth is I royally flubbed the dub. How embarrassing. And Nick's going to put the link on so you can all go to the link and see Patrick Kelly back in 1986 on a quiz show. He says, as a Pittsburgher, you should recognize host Lynn Hines of WTAE. He ended up a communications professor at Penn State after his long Pittsburgh broadcasting stint. Also, the contestant in the middle is Nancy Culp of the Beverly Hillbillies fame. I know. In 1986, Culp was teaching drama at Juanita College in Huntington, PA, and a few years before this show, she ran unsuccessfully for Congress in the PA 9th Congressional District. I didn't know any of that.
You're talking about Miss Jane Hathaway? That one?
Yes.
Wow.
And she looks the same as she did in the Beverly Hillbillies.
Wow.
Actually, she looks better than she did in the Beverly Hillbillies. So it's I got a kick out of watching it. I watched the entire thing, not just the part where the Brian De Palma question was. He said if you want to, you could fast forward to about the 11-minute, 25-second mark, and that's when the Brian De Palma question comes up. I didn't get it either, bro. But you know me with movie questions, I don't get them very good. Anyway, I found out when he was on the show, he was talking about a book series that he wrote that he had never mentioned this before, but he did 5 novels in the Harry Calderwood Magician Detective series. They're all Avon books, paperback originals, and all the titles begin with the word slightly, Sleighttly. And I'm going to have Nick post these on the website too. They're available through third-party vendors on Amazon. There's always some available for a couple bucks on eBay, so I'll send that link too. And his first novel achieved footnote status in a Wikipedia article for being a nominee in the paperback original category at the first annual Anthony Awards at the 1986 VoucherCon.
Wow.
It's a convention for mystery writers and novelists. So Nick's going to put this link up to that con. It's still going on.
Why not?
It sounds really good. His first novel was called Slightly Murder, and I'm going to read all of them.
Great.
And congratulations, too. I did not know you were a novelist with A1 Books.
Holy cats.
I know. Cool. So, on with the show. Or do we want to do the contest first?
We should do the contest.
Okay. Well, the contest, the answer was Jack Frost, 1964, the Russian movie that we watched. Our first prize is the really cool Santito surprise package. Santitito. I keep getting that wrong.
How do you say it, Mary?
Santitito. Little Santito is what it means.
Santitito.
Santitito, yes. That's what he's called. Or Kenny B. Since it's a surprise to us, let us know what goodies are in the package so we can post them. Either post it yourself or send us a photo so we can post it because they're cool. And the winner is... Ouch.
The winner's ouch?
Let's see. The winner is Dax Bradley.
Dax.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Is he a new listener? Or?
No. He's been
Dax Bradley?
He's been listening and writing in quite a bit lately.
Okay.
I was going to say Dax Bradley's one of our most common winners.
Yes.
Congrats to Dax.
Yeah, he is lucky. Okay, our second prize is a special DVD from Twyla Muneer Brooks. It's her much-beloved copy of The Fog from 1980, and Nick has signed the cover sleeve of this copy.
Hooray!
Exciting. Okay, and the winner is Andrew Gwynn. So congratulations, you have won.
Congrats.
The Fog.
All
Signed
right.
by our own Nick Brown.
And I do love that movie.
Yeah. I know. Did we ever do that one?
Yes, we've done that one, Mary.
Okay.
Trust me.
Our next prize has been donated by our own Nick Brown, and I will let him say what it is.
Okay, so Eric and Twyla and Fiona and I went to see a movie the other night. We went to see Renfield, by the way, which was very good.
Is it? I want to see that.
Because we have a penchant for going places too early, we ended up over at Half Price Books, and I was looking for books, and I bought, because I found it on sale, Ray Harryhausen, Titan of Cinema by his daughter, Vanessa.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I bought it. And when I was checking out, Eric was like, Nick, didn't I get you that book for Christmas? No! And then I got home and yeah, he had. So I have an extra copy of Ray Harryhausen, Titan of Cinema, which I am going to give away to some lucky listener.
All right.
When you get this book, be sure to look inside the front cover at the photo credits, because a lot of the photos in it are classic photos, but some of the newer photos, especially of the models and such after they were restored, come from the Movie Cast's own favorite son of the UK, Mark
Mostyn. Cool.
So there you go.
Yay. Okay. The winner of this is Don Falcos.
Oh, wow.
Come on, Don Falcos.
He wins a lot, too. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. You got any other prizes, Mary? Are you going to be cheap?
I'm going to be cheap this time.
That's what I thought.
Okay, well, congratulations, everybody. Okay, so on with the movie Mesa of Lost Women from 1953.
I don't know why there were lost women. They seem to be found pretty easily.
I know.
But that's beside the point.
There's a whole lot about this movie. A whole lot of questions I have, but nobody can answer them.
Do you know what the budget was to do this film? How much money was used to make this movie?
$5?
I'm
give or take a couple.
Less than 100,000 in today's dollars.
So you just imagine, you're talking probably around $1,000 or under $1,000 back then in 1953. I mean, this guy Ron Orman. I mean, I guess he was a showman and a screenwriter and did all this kind of stuff, but I don't know. Maybe to him to be a director and to do movies would have been probably would have not been his cup of tea. He should have stuck to vaudeville and other things that he used to do, hypnotist, magician, whatever you want to call it. He did a little bit of everything, but being a movie director, yeah, I don't know about that. And basically, he was in exploitation films, the Ed Wood type films, because those are the ones that were pretty common in the 50s, early 50s and late 50s.
Did he really only spend $1,000 on this?
I think he might have spent just a tad more, Mary. But I don't think it would be big budget like 150,000. That's big budget for him.
Well, the fact is, he didn't start the movie.
No,
I mean, he bought the rights to the movie after Herbert Tevos. Is that how you say his name? Tevos?
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually did a lot of the original movie, and then Ormond came by and bought the rights because, the story was Pergo Productions started it. It was going to be Tarantula, and it got a motion picture production code seal in 1951, and they had trouble finding a distributor. So Ormond, with his Halco production company, bought the film in 1952, and then Ormond directed the additional footage, which kind of explains why it's so confusing, because the original story didn't have the spider women in it. It was just like, a plane went down in Mexico.
Well, you did get to see a spider, a little tiny behind a bush, and you saw the leg, a couple shots with a leg coming down. That's about it. And at the end, you do see.
No, I mean the original one. The original one didn't. I don't think.
Oh yeah, the original, right?
So he didn't really have to do a whole lot. I guess he didn't really have to spend a whole lot of money because he just called people back and added footage to it.
Right.
So, I've got to make a comment about what you're telling me about this, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're saying that he paid cash money for the film.
Yeah.
He paid.
Well, yeah, he bought the film.
That film, and then he added to this film.
Right, to make this film.
Okay.
I don't know how much he paid for it because they were having trouble getting a distributor, and it was dead by then.
It was too much. This explains why it has a 1952 title card and the MPAA serial number and everything else, even though it was released in 1953. It all makes perfect sense now.
Yeah. And if
much more sense than the actual film made.
There's a lot of people's names, the actors that aren't on the original running. They tacked them on at the end of the movie. It's like they were originally in the movie. The original people were in the movie, and it was on the front part where it goes through all the actors. But
the opening credits.
The opening credits. But then at the end, they added the extra people that they had to hire to finish the movie.
I just like that you called it the beginning part of the movie where they list the people.
I know.
That is such a convoluted way to say
opening credits.
The opening credits. But you do you, Mary.
Oh.
It's all good. So, after the beginning part where they list all the people, whatever that's called. And actually, this makes a little bit more sense to me because this movie starts out and it does this thing that is very common in low-budget films. And I can always tell when they do it, it means they either didn't have the money to film something, they lost the soundtrack when they recorded the audio, or they were just very, very incompetent when they were writing, and they realized nobody was going to understand anything, so they had to do it. Yes, I'm talking about narration. And this film has almost Santa Claus style narration going on in it. And, the narrator was just so gleeful at times. And he was like, and perhaps now Pepe will know why he is destined for death.
I know.
I want to make a mention about that narrator. Okay, he was
Oh,
a
please.
famous star, believe it or not. Lyle Talbot was a famous star back in the silent film era, the pre-code era, and he appeared opposite tons of the divas from back in the day. I'm talking about he was in movies with Carol Lombard, Barbara Streisand, Betty Davis, Ginger Rogers, Loretta Young, Joan Blondell, Marion Davies, Shirley Temple. I can go on and on and on. Also with lead actors like Humphrey Bogart, Tyrone Powers. This guy here, Lyle Talbot, did over almost 85 movies. The height of his career was from between 1931 in 1945, 46. And he was a very, very sought after actor.
He did
filled a lot-
334 movies.
Yes.
He
but
was
I'm
a
talking
matinee
about
idol.
the famous ones that I'm talking about
Yeah.
from the pre-code era.
Yeah.
And, after the silent era in 29, 30, between 29 and 1932 or 34, when the pre-code when the Hays Code came in, he did over 75 to 80 films just in those years.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the other years and everything that he has. He was a huge star.
Yeah.
I mean, so I got to give credit to Lyle Talbot. Now, his narration in his film sucked. I got to tell you, I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, for being such a talented and very versatile actor, that,
Yeah.
his career spanned over like 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah.
He started from 1930, 31, and he went all the way into the 60s.
He was one of the founders of the Screen Actors Guild.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I know.
So I got to make a special mention about the narrator, Lyle Talbot. Great actor, but the narration was like, I don't know if this was just scripted. He did it on his own, or Orman, told him,
sure
just
it was
say anything you
scripted.
want. Just say whatever you want to say just to get it through,
I'm sure it was scripted, but wow, yeah. It didn't help. His narration didn't make the movie
It
more
didn't make any sense, Mary. It did
Yeah.
not make sense.
Yeah. I didn't realize Lyle Talbot.
Lyle Talbot.
Okay,
Wow.
I gotta say, you
I'm
guys
drinking.
couldn't
Just
follow
leave me
the
alone.
plot?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this was a very straightforward movie.
Are you sure?
Well, I was drunk when I watched it last, so I'm gonna say no.
No.
But I got to tell you one thing, guys. I want to add one of the reasons why I took this movie as a pick. Not so much for the movie itself with grade Z or grade below Z, whatever you want to call it, but actually the cast. It had a pretty good cast of stars that, if you don't know who they are, I mean, I knew most of these. I mean, I knew all along that Dolores Fuller was Ed Wood's girlfriend at one time. And I knew for a fact that another major star in this movie happens to be one that's uncredited. The little dwarf, the midget, Angela Rosito. Okay?
He's uncredited?
Huh?
He's uncredited?
Yes, he is uncredited. They don't give him any credits. His name doesn't appear at all. But you see, he's one of the dwarves, one of the midgets in the jungle running around. They pop his face quite a few times. You see his face shot. And Angela Rosito, man, Freaks. Remember Freaks? That's Angela Rosito. Rosito was discovered by John Barrymore back in 1926, and he appeared with Lon Chaney. He appeared with he did over 75 films, Rosito, and he was a major star. He was in movies with Bela Lugosi. I mean, he did a lot of films, and then he did some cheesy films too, Dracula versus Frankenstein. But he was around even in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. He was in that.
I thought John George was the one that was in all those movies. Wasn't
No, it was Angela Rosito.
Oh.
Yeah, Angela Rosito. I mean, and this guy here, this dwarf. I mean, he got discovered in 1927 by John Barrymore in the film The Beloved Rogue, and he was also in a lot of the early silence and pre-code films, Oh San Francisco, and then Todd Browning. He was one of the favorites of Todd Browning for Freaks, Rosito. And, he was the midget that was on the table, that was dancing in the table when they were all there. But this actor is a very well-known, and he's uncredited here, believe it or not.
He do
okay?
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
Yes.
And
yeah, he was Master in the Master Blaster pair.
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Island
You got him,
Souls.
and then you got another actor. This Richard Travis is another actor. So if you don't know these actors, they say, okay, this is a bunch of duds. They got character actors they got in the film, but the film could be a dud, but it's got a pretty good cast of stars. And if you know what they did in the past and other films that they did, Richard Travis is another pretty good actor.
Well, he was friend of the director.
Yeah, right. He did a lot of TV stuff. He did Code 3. He did a lot of stuff in the 60s for television, but he had a pretty good filmography. And a lot of them were pretty good films back in the 1930s and the 1940s. So you see, he was even in a couple serials, Green Hornet serial, The King of the Royal Mounties serial. He was in a couple of movies with James Cagney, and it's like these guys have been around, and it's just
it happened.
This movie, I don't know where for them to want to be in this grade Z film, kind of like it oddballed me. I said, wait a minute, you got some pretty good stars here, but they wanted Jackie Coogan.
Well,
no,
Richard Travis was a friend of the director, so that kind of makes sense. And Alan Nixon, who played Doc Tucker, he was a friend of the director too.
Right.
So that's why they're in them. And a lot of the other people are kind of Ed Wood connections.
They are. The majority of them. The majority. Yeah. But I know for sure that Dolores Fuller was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Dolores Fuller, she did a lot of the teenage gang movies in the 1950s.
Yeah, she did Glen or Glenda, Bride of the Monster.
And she knew Bela Lugosi also.
Mm-hmm. But she was really great. She was sharing a house at the time with Mona McKinnon, who's also in this movie. She's another one of those lost women. And she went on to do music. She started writing hit songs. So she wrote hit songs for Elvis Presley. She did one of the songs in Blue Hawaii and some of the songs in Kid Galahad. Then she founded her own record company, DD Records, that helped launch the careers of, Johnny Rivers and Tanya Tucker.
Right.
She had like this really great life after this movie. Oh, yeah.
But I gotta tell you, she was also a child star, because Dolores Fuller in 1934, she had a bit part in the movie It Happened One Night with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. So you see back in the day they might have had a few big hits, but then something happens along the way that their career doesn't launch off the way they want to, and they land up doing bit parts and doing cheesy parts in other films that are not as popular, and they stay that way, and that's how they become B movie actors and actresses.
Yeah. But luckily for her, she made the right connections and made a career out of music.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah,
that's really great.
There's one of the lost women's called Suzanne Ridgway, and I don't know which one she was. She was in Citizen Kane. And From Hell It Came.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary, you just went from Citizen Kane.
I know. Triple
to From Hell
movie
It Came.
to Z. Yeah, I know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you realize the irony of that.
I do. It just surprised me that these people were in there. I mean, they're good actors and actresses, and it makes me wonder what happened.
Well,
I'll give you a good example of another actor in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other actors in this film, the co-pilot of the pilot, Alan Nixon, his career was pretty good. And of course, most of these guys were all military veterans that fought.
Wait! I thought Alan Nixon was Doc Tucker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
he
what
was
I
the
meant.
doctor in the hospital, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, Nixon actually had an affair with Marie Windsor, one of a big actress, and he also, he was involved in Hollywood, and he knew a lot of people, had a lot of good contacts. I mean, he was a lifelong friend of Arthur Kennedy. He knew Burt Lancaster, and so forth. His filmography is not that great, though. He really didn't have a lot of movies under his belt, but there was one particular movie that I did enjoy that he was in, because Maria Montez was in the film. It's The Siren of Atlantis from 1949. And it's also known Atlantis, the Lost Continent. It's like a semi-fantasy adventure sci-fi film. United Artists put it out. And he was in that with Maria Montez. So, and his character, his role in that was pretty good, So you see these guys, these people, I don't know how Ron Hartman landed getting all this cast. These people, unless he paid them really dirt cheap, because there was no money to be made from this film. There was really no money to be made. I mean, they did it for the heck of it or whatever, because there was no Academy Award indications at all. The film was a total confusion. It was a fiasco to, let's walk around. That Bat Masterson guy, the guy in the suit, walking around the desert, walking in the jungle.
Masterson.
Well, I call him Bat Masterson, but it's Mr. Dr. Masterson or whatever his name was. The guy that he looked like he was hypnotized throughout the whole movie, holding a gun. Him. That's who I'm talking about.
Leland Masterson. That was his name. Harmon Stevens was the...
Okay, and I'm going to make a point. That dude was probably the best actor in this.
Seriously,
because
he was.
All the stuff going on, and he just sits there with that look on his face like he's just done mushrooms.
I know. He makes me laugh.
But every so often he'd look at you and you'd he was creepy. He seemed like a mass murderer sometimes. Yeah.
That was the idea. I mean, he was a mass murderer in this, Mary. Be fair, he didn't, he's shooting people left, right, and center.
True.
But, God bless this. Yeah. I do like that Juan said, and I quote, there was no indication of an Academy Award in this.
Oh my God.
I thought this was going to wrap it up for 1953. I mean, Oscar clean sweep, hell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
okay.
This was
the male nurse, George, the male nurse that was in the cantina.
Yes.
Right.
He's Robo-Man from Robot Monster.
And somehow this is a step down.
He took off his ape costume because he was a popular ape guy, one of the monkey suit guys. Yeah,
he did.
I did not recognize him in this movie because I've only seen him as Robot Monster.
Tell you, one of the other things that really I kind of enjoy the film myself. I mean, for being what it is. I mean, it's basically, you have to understand that it's like you watch this movie and you can say you've watched the Beast of Yucca Flats 2 or 3 times over and over again with Tor Johnson. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's the same concept. Mm-hmm. You walk around the desert, you're lost, you come upon an atomic test site, you get blown, you become a mutant, and you're walking wondrously, aimlessly lost around the desert, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Same thing with the characters in the beginning of this film. And this is all done via flashback. After the first 10 minutes or so, when they land up rescuing them from the desert, boom, it's all a flashback story. So let's flashback a year or 2 years ago.
It's flashbacks in flashbacks, it seemed like. It just got really confusing.
don't forget with a bunch of narration just to make sure.
Okay, Nick, I'm going to leave this one up
guitar
to you.
playing.
I need for you to give me an Academy Award for the best musical score and the sound in this film.
Okay.
Tell me about that Spanish. Mary calls it a flamenco guitar. I call it a Spanish guitar. That thing was driving me crazy.
Okay, I call it a ringtone on a cheap cell phone. You know, and I mean, my God, they had. I'm imagining somebody came up with a guitar riff that they used as a, you know, the guy who made this film paid somebody $50 and he just sat and played guitar for 20 minutes and they recorded him. And then when it was all done, he said, yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with the bit you did at the beginning. And we're going to play that over and over and over and over and over again. And I mean, really, that bit, oh my God. And by the way, folks, I am going to play that bit for you right now. There you go. You're welcome. Now, all you have to do is imagine that this pops up periodically during the podcast. Or maybe it will.
Well, I got to tell you.
Popped up in the movie constantly.
along with that riff, you want to add the piano riff to that one, because I'm going to tell you, that piano riff, the way they slammed on the keys, damn, I mean, it's like, whoa, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
You know, the piano accompaniment with the guitar, that was like the worst ever musical. I mean, I don't know how they even got to put the music together for this film.
But what amazed, the guy who did it's Hoyt Curtin, and he wrote the theme for the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Scooby-Doo, Josie and the Pussycats, Yogi Bear, the Smurfs. I mean, he wrote all these really good theme songs for cartoons. And that's what they came up with for the movie.
Okay, Mary. Once again, you're getting back to the point, which is they didn't have any money. My guess is, like I said, he either paid this guy $50 for 20 minutes of him sitting there playing the guitar in front of a recorder, or, and this is equally possible,
yes,
he gave him 50 cents and said, "What can you? How much music will you give me for 2 bits?"
Or the guy happened to be walking down the hall and they just grabbed him. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. So you get the 50 cents worth of music, right?
Yes.
And then he says something that annoys him. So as he's walking out, he slams his fists on the piano. And that makes that piano noise. And you know what? The guy goes, "Perfect!" And, you know, "You caught that, didn't you?" And the sound guy's sitting there going, "Yes, boss, I caught it." And so, yeah, they that's where all the soundtrack came from.
I actually liked it at the beginning when I first heard it, and then I kept hearing it over and over.
It's a good guitar bit.
Yeah.
It's a good piano bit, except for the smacking of the fists on the keys. But again, you know what?
Over and over.
I like ice cream, but if I ate ice cream 24 hours a day for a day, I probably wouldn't like ice cream anymore. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with this.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Yeah.
And then I gotta just to mention some of the side characters in here that were kind of like, they were there, but what was their reason? You got this Confucius guy, the Asian guy, who's giving all his Fu Manchu quotes, and he's like, well, he's in the jungle with him one moment, and the next moment he's in the cave, and the next moment he's over here, and then he's on the plane, and then you see his face. But what was his overall, Samuel Wu?
The thing is, he's a henchman for the mad evil scientist. But how did he ever get in touch with him? Because he was the assistant to the really wealthy guy that was getting married.
Mary.
I know. I'm trying to make sense out of this movie.
You're looking for logic in Mesa of Lost Women. You will stop right now. Also, you've just given away the one plot twist.
I did.
I hope you're happy.
The whole thing was a plot twist to me.
You know what was the best thing of this movie overall, guys, that I really loved and enjoyed?
The ending credits?
No.
Oh.
Tarantella. She did it all. Tarantella. I love it because of her.
I am not going to disagree with you. One thing. So she does her weird, sexy dance in the cantina.
Which was sexy at first. Then it got
the whole
boring.
time I'm watching that dance, I'm like, okay, did Jenna Ortega see this when she was preparing to do her weird dance in the Wednesday Addams series?
Oh.
Because I felt like they borrowed a couple of pieces. Now, I actually looked up, and Jenna Ortega did not borrow anything from Mesa of Lost Women. As a matter of fact, I'd be shocked if she knew this film existed. But that's beside the point. That was all I could think of was the Wednesday Addams dance.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday Addams dance from the Wednesday TV show on Netflix.
Oh, well, she was very good at playing mute characters.
Well, okay, Mary, once again, was she that good at it?
No.
I mean, she just did it a lot. I don't know that she was good at it.
That's true. Well, she only made 5 movies.
Yeah. And that speaks to either not being that good at any acting, which I'm not going to say her body of work argues against that point, but,
She died in 2016 in Panama City Beach, Florida. Huh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
I like
she didn't
Panama
have
City.
big
Sorry.
film credit, but she really looked very, very captivating in the film. As a matter of fact, I tell you what I do love about this film is the poster. It's an awesome poster on this movie. Just the poster alone is pretty cool,
Yeah.
No, it's got a good poster. And you know what they always say, the better the poster, the worse the movie probably is.
Exactly.
But that's beside the point.
Although the poster's showing a couple things that really never happened in the movie.
Oh, true.
There was not a romantic love scene in the nude between Tarantella and what's his face.
Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Aranya doesn't get killed by a giant spider on top of him.
Yeah.
That never happens in the movie, but they put it in the poster, which is cool.
It might have been in the original movie.
Yeah.
We don't know. Oh. Well, Tarantella was Tandra Quinn.
Yeah, that was her.
Yeah. She was 18 years old when she met the original guy, the original director, Tivos.
It would have been really cool if because Dr. Aranya mentions about her, she lives for centuries because her body regenerates from spider parts, and she becomes, she dies and comes back to life. But it would have been really cool if we can see Tarantella transform into a giant tarantula. That would have been cool.
Is she the one that survives at the end of this? I can't remember which.
Not really. It was one of the blonde ones, but that doesn't mean she didn't survive at the end of it, Mary. It just means that they may have gone back and shot that bit later.
Yeah.
And, she was busy, I don't know, drowning her sorrows at having been in this movie at a bar somewhere.
Yeah.
I felt bad for the Mexican companion Pepe, Crispin Martin.
Yeah.
Well, he did get a lot of crap in the narrator was constantly giving him crap.
I know, and they call him the driver, and he never actually drove.
Exactly.
He always sat in the passenger seat.
Huh.
And
Right.
You were paying way more attention to this movie than I was, Mary.
And he said, "Ay caramba," and it's like that. It was such a stereotype of the drunken Mexican.
Where do we know Pepe from though, guys? He's a known character actor in a series that we all know. Well, I know. I don't know if you guys know it, but he was around for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you know this? Do you know the series?
The Fugitive?
No.
Well, he was in The Fugitive.
The Cisco Kid.
Oh.
Oh, he was in this. Okay.
He was in the Cisco Kid.
Wow. Okay.
Yep, that was his sidekick. But he had another name. They called him Pancho.
Then. Yeah. I remember the Cisco
That was
Kid.
his sidekick. Now remember, in the Cisco Kid was around for many years, many seasons. But they changed his name a couple times from Pancho. They took Gordito. They called him Gordito. You know, that was his sidekick. And in the later films, he renamed him as Pancho. And that was him. In the sense that was, Pepe, that was him.
I mean, he's a great character actor. He did IMDb says he did 147 movies. But Mesa of Lost Women, our movie, was his last. Yeah, this movie killed his career completely.
I'm telling you.
I'm gonna say his career was probably already over at that point, Mary. But
hey, he was in The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, well, it didn't stand still enough for him, I guess.
Wait, no, he wasn't.
Well, in that case, why are you saying that, Mary? Are you on drugs?
I must be. I am really confused.
Mary, have you taken some of that Lyle Talbot narrator drug stuff?
Wow, I must have.
Oh.
I need
believe it or not, that Pepe was in the Lost World, the original Lost World from 25. The problem was that there was a lot of scenes from that very first Willis O'Brien lost that movie. That those scenes with him in it got deleted. They got taken out. But actually, he was in the film, but his scenes were cut out.
Aw.
Yeah, he was also in movies with Charlie Chaplin. He started out in the silent era. He did a lot of movies in the silent era. But if you don't know most of the stuff that he did, guys, he was uncredited. He was not credited. So if you didn't get his name, if you didn't get the name of Crispin Martin in the title, then he was uncredited, but he was in the movie. He was in the Gaucho with Douglas Fairbanks and Lupe Velez. He was in the ballroom, and there was a ballroom scene where they're dancing, and he's there by the bar. That's him. Of course, in 1927, he was a young guy.
He was in The Mask of Fu Manchu.
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Okay, is that really worth a wow, Mary?
Yeah, well, I can't imagine. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I can't imagine him being in it.
Sorry. The only wow I can do for The Mask of Fu Manchu is, really, Christopher Lee? That's Fu Manchu? Okay, sure.
I guess, yeah.
But anyway, he did have a huge filmography, and he acted throughout the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, up until, like you said, Mary, the very last film that he did, which was this one in 53. He did a couple. He didn't too many, but his career started winding down after 1940, 48, 47. Then he started, doing fewer films towards the end there. But I mean, to me, for the few words that he said, his Spanish was good and everything. But he was pretty good. He was pretty good, But if you watch him in the Cisco Kid, he put, you can see him pair with as Pancho, or as Gordito with the Cisco Kid in a lot of the westerns. He was in a lot of many westerns, over 100 westerns, matter of fact. So that's where you see the character actor of him portrayed pretty good with in the Cisco Kid, But anyway, that's so much for Pepe. But I mean, again, going back to the cast of this film, they had a pretty decent cast. I mean, a lot of these people were not newcomers, and they were not all grade Z or grade B stars. They started out doing a lot of grade A films, and somewhere along the line, look at Jackie Coogan. Jackie Coogan was a famous child star. Back in the 20s, he was with Charlie Chaplin.
I did not know that his parents stole all his millions of dollars.
Oh, yes. The Jackie Coogan, John Leslie Coogan, as is well known, okay, he was literally in the streets. He might have been considered almost homeless in the streets. If it wasn't for, Charlie Chaplin himself took him under his wing. Not just, one of the first films that he did was The Kid. But then after that, in the history, he sued his parents because they knew that he was a child star making mega money, mega thousands, mega millions, and they took advantage of their own son. And I guess, Charlie Chaplin was one of the founders of the Screen Actors or the Child Actors bill. They named a bill after him later on because of that, because of the mistreatment of the children, child stars throughout the 30s or 40s. There was many other child stars that got mistreated, and they were abused, and they were taking their monies from them. So, but he was a good kid star, and he was performed well, and he did so much stuff. And that's Coogan for you. But look how he ends up. I loved him as Uncle Fester in the Addams Family.
Yes. I love him as Uncle Fester. He's the best.
But the thing about it is, he became huge in TV, throughout the 60s. He was very, very prominent between 1961 and 1968. And you see him everywhere. He was a character actor that was on Perry Mason, The Brady Bunch, A Dream of Jeannie, Lucy, every TV show, even the Wild Wild West, he was in that. So, you could imagine, for his extensive career that he had, up until his death in 84, he had a pretty elusive career, Jackie Coogan. But then again,
it said the California legislature passed the Child Actors Bill, also known as the Coogan Act, that would set up a trust fund for any child actor and protected his earnings. And that's because of what his mother and stepfather did to him.
But believe it or not, his fortune, what he made as a child star in the 20s.
Oh, millions.
He made mega millions.
Yeah.
It was his value back then was $3 to $5 million.
Yeah.
In today's money, it's almost like $60 million.
That's amazing.
So it's like, wow, he was a instant millionaire, but that's one of the reasons why, because of the parents managing, the monies for them. You're thinking that they're too young to handle money. How can they handle large amounts of money like that?
Yeah, so they took it and spent it all.
Exactly.
That's rotten.
Mm-hmm.
But he's such an icon, because anybody who ever plays Uncle Fester always looks like him.
Mm-hmm.
He made that character.
But, in the end, though, he really didn't come out shining, because after all of these lawsuits and everything, he was all throughout the years between the 30s and the 40s and 50s, he was constantly trying to get what was his for what he did. And in the end, he only landed up getting a couple $100,000. He didn't really get his entire fortune. He only got like maybe $300,000 or something. Yeah. And it's like Charlie Chaplin was one of his mentors, and Chaplin was one of the guys that really helped him a lot. He was giving him side money for being in the movies with him. He would give him an extra $1,000 on the side. Here, put this away, hide it. Don't let your parents see it. Yeah. You see what I mean? But that was Jackie. That was him. That was Coogan.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they did that Coogan's Law, and California, they required that a certain amount of money had to be set in a trust fund for these child stars, and it kept in that trust fund for them in case anything happens. So that way, after they finish the school, they graduate, they want to go to college, then they can pursue their careers, and they'll have the money set up for them in those trust funds. I guess Coogan was a leading example to set that up, you know.
Mm-hmm. Which actress was it that, was it the wife? Paula Hill, not the wife, but the fiance. Was it her or was it the tarantula lady? One of them, when they were young, was in an accident and their face got disfigured, and they could never make it in Hollywood because their face wasn't symmetrical after that. But they're beautiful women, but you know, they just
it could have been any of the one. It could have been either Sherry Moreland or Ginger Sherry. There was just 3 or 4 other tarantula women. They would show their faces, but you know, none of them never talked. They didn't have no words. They didn't have no conversation. So their bit parts. They were just bit character actors that were just there. You might say they were extras. Because if you don't speak in a film, and I know, Nick, you know this as well as me, you know, the only way you get SAGed, you can get, you know, Screen Actors Guild. If you're in a film, you have a talking part, then you can get SAGed, like I did for Red Heat. But if you're in a movie and you don't have any you don't speak or you don't have any words or any lines, you know, and then you have a bit part, they just show your face, like they did for most of these Spider Women, you know. Mona McMinn, Sherry Moreland, Ginger, all of those 3 or 4 Spider Women that were climbing up and down the rope ladder in the laboratory, and you just see their faces and the weird hair. Those women, they were, to me, they were in the credits, but not in the credits. So they were uncredited, you know, in the film. So yeah, they could have been very well one of them that might have been disfigured in a car accident and never really got to make it.
Yeah. I think we also need to talk about Dean Reisner. He was one of the henchmen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the Ed Wood guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because him and Lyle Talbot and who else? I have written down here. Mona McKinnon, Dolores Fuller were all in Plan 9.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't Elvira in Plan 9?
Dolores Fuller was in Glenna Glenda too.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary, I'm going to pause you because you just said wasn't Elvira in that?
I just got a flash of what she looked like. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. That is such a controversial thing because it was Vampira.
Oh, that's right.
Vampira spent a lot of time suing Elvira.
Exactly.
Because she claimed Elvira stole her look.
Exactly.
Which maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but I know Vampira did not win that lawsuit. So
no.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, and I think that goes to not really having a solid ownership, you know, of your property there with it. So, but whatever the case, yeah, it was not Vampire or Elvira.
No, I got to tell you, Nick. I mean, Myla Normie, who was Vampire in the 1950s. Okay, and she did some of the early Kinescope TV shows, hostess type. She did.
Yep.
And you got to say that Elvira ripped her off 100% on the style, the looks, the dress, the black dress, everything. But Myla Normie, being that she got to be in Plan 9, and you see her walking around in Plan 9, I mean, she did the Vampire show for a whole year from between 1954 and 55, and she was on ABC TV in New York. All right, and you know, when they canceled the show, she was in a few other, you know, cult films, and then I guess Ed Wood wanted to put her into Plan 9, but she was in the 1959 movie The Beat Generation. She was in a few other films too that she, you know, she was pretty cool. She was a good actress, but I mean, it just her fame to claim was the hostess, you know, the horror hostess, which she never did. You know, she got canceled early on, and she could have went on through the late 50s into the 60s being a horror host and doing, horror TV shows, and Elvira might have never even came into play. I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, Elvira knew how to market herself better. She got a better market for it overall. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it because Elvira did not contribute to Vampira's character demise. That was much more of just, hey, she didn't make the ratings in L.A. So, I don't know.
I would have to say more for me, that the character of Vampira and Normie in the costume, that trade costume, was more like Morticia Addams in the Addams Family. To me, I mean, because you look at Morticia, and it's like, wait a minute, her outfit is like, and she acted just like Vampira did. Like same thing.
Yeah.
Huh. So can I just make a point that we have managed to reference the Addams Family directly 3 different characters from this one movie?
I know.
Now, to be fair, Uncle Fester was in the movie.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there's that. But wow, and this was totally unplanned, folks. Look at the weird synchronicities in the B-movie cast.
I tell you, it's a lot of fun. But anyway, hey, so much for all these character actors, but I got to say, in the end, they got their fame, their how do you call it, the glory to fame or whatever, being who they were in this film. Even though they might have showed their faces, and we see, Angelo Rosito walking around, the little dwarf. I knew the movies he was in, and I saw him in a lot of movies, and I can relate. And listening to Lyle Talbot narrate, which is the worst narration ever, which really, to me, didn't maybe, you watch the movie and you listen to him talk in the beginning, and it's like, it doesn't really make any sense with what's being shown. People walking in the desert and he's narrating. What's he narrating? But anyway, so much for that. As far as everybody else, the character of Dr. Araña, the spider, the Dr. Spider, was a horrible, I mean, his portrayal is really, really bad.
Yeah.
Jackie Coogan was at the end of the line practically with doing this kind of stuff. And then he got away from doing movies and went to TV, and he kind of shined a little bit doing his TV careers. And after that, he stayed with TV, and he did good.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that Dean Reisner, we got off track because I said Elvira instead of Vampira, but he was married to Vampira. That was her first husband.
Oh, okay.
And he's in this movie as one of the henchmen. And he is a writer. He was Clint Eastwood's favorite screenwriter. He wrote Coogan's Bluff, The Enforcer, Dirty Harry, and Play Misty for Me. And he wrote Blue Thunder and Starman.
Wow.
But you never even hear his name ever.
Mm-hmm.
His big claim to fame was he was married to Vampira.
Wow.
Which is kind of sad, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the cinematographers were really good cinematographers, which is why I don't understand. That's why I don't understand why they were so bad in this movie. Carl Struss is the one that shot the original stuff, the original movie. He did Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, The Great Dictator, Island of Lost Souls, Rocket Ship XM, She-Devil, Kronos, The Fly, The Alligator People. He was a cinematographer there. He was a good cinematographer, so it's like, what happened?
Okay, well, Mary.
Here's what happened, Mary.
Yeah, go ahead, Juan. I mean,
both cinematographers. You're looking at two guys that were born in the 1800s. I mean, these cinematographers had their fame, their glory days throughout the early 1900s. The Gilbert Lawrence's
Struss did The Fly
started...
and The Alligator People in 58 and 59. He did Kronos in 57.
Oh, true, but still, you got to go back to the early beginnings to see how they started out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're looking, between 1913, 15, 18, and throughout the 20s. Most of their career in cinematography was in the silent era. This one guy, Gilbert Warrington, his entire filmography was through like the 20s. I mean, it throughout the 1920s, all the way up until, well, he did the 30s and then the 40s, but still.
Yeah, he did. He did Panic in the Year Zero, Master of the World in 61, The Atomic Submarine in 59, The Man Who Laughs in 28. I mean, these were good cinematographers, though.
Yeah, they were. They were. I have to say they were. But still, how in the world? I mean, hey, this guy here, Carl Struss, one of the cinematographers.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. For all of the movies that they did throughout their entire career, come on, to do the movie Ben-Hur from 1925 with Ramon Navarro, to be the cinematographer for that movie, which is a Cecil B. DeMille movie.
Yeah.
And then you're doing the Mesa of the Lost Women, which is what kind of cinematography was in this movie? We see the desert, we see the mesa, we see a cave, we see a jungle at night, which you can't even make it out with I mean, that's cinematography. But we're talking later on. They must have been in the very, very last when they're doing. They can't get any real good cinematography from blockbuster hits that they had back in the day. Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, The Sign of the Cross, Island of the Lost Souls with Charles Lawton and Lugosi. Struss did the cinematography for that movie.
Yeah.
So those were blockbuster A films back in the day.
Yeah.
So something happened that they went from all of that to grade Z at the end here. I mean, I just don't get the hang of that one.
Well, no, I mean, after Struss did this movie, he did Island of Lost Souls, he did Rocket Ship XM, he did Kronos and The Fly and The Alligator People. Those were all good movies.
Mm-hmm. They were.
And that was after this movie. I just don't, it's like, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand why this movie ended up so bad with so many great people.
Okay.
know, man.
You guys are really overthinking this.
I know.
No, let me just say, why was the cinematography bad? They didn't have any money. Why was the acting bad? They didn't have any money. Why was the sound bad? Why did they only have 5 seconds of guitar riff? They didn't have any money. That is the root of all evil, I think, for this film, is that they didn't have any money, and Ron Ormond didn't want to spend the time to make a good movie. He wanted to get the film reshot and put it out there. Because here's the thing. You don't have to have a lot of money to make a good movie.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You don't. But, and this is the key, if you don't have money, you have to take your time to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't taking his time. I mean, look at daggone near every time they did a close-up of an actor's face, they took them out of whatever scene they were in and filmed them with a black background behind them.
Exactly.
I mean, even when they were on the airplane and they were sitting right in like a bus seating right behind each other, it would cut to one of them and there's nothing else around them. It's like they're suddenly in the void. That's because he didn't have any money to do extra camera angles. He was shooting this thing with one camera, and when he wasn't shooting the wide shot, he was not shooting anything. And so later on, he came back and said, I need to put in some close-ups. Get over here and stand. Now look scared. Oh, oh my God.
But he only shot the extra pieces.
Okay, Mary,
TiVo's
point
is
to
the
the
one...
extra pieces.
Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
I can't tell.
I'm telling you, all that stuff where it had just the head with no background, guarantee that was extra.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I guarantee it.
Because the original director, that TiVo's guy, This is basically the only movie he ever made. I mean, he has
and he didn't even make it.
Well, you're right, but I wonder how much of the really awful part of this movie is because of him. Like, everybody hated working with him. They couldn't stand him.
Say it takes a village to make a film this bad.
Yeah.
I don't think you can lay this at any one person's feet. I'm going to say, though, you could probably put it at Ron Ormond's feet. Okay, but even then, it's maybe not. Who knows?
Have you seen any of Ron Ormond's cowboy movies?
I have not.
Juan, you probably have.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
Are they any good?
Yeah, most of the ones that he did, Mary, were with monogram pictures in the 1940s. He did a lot of movies. He did some of the Lash LaRue's, and which were pretty good. I mean, Lash LaRue was, Ormond wrote the series. He also did some of the Hopalong Cassidy ones. Okay. And he was also, he did quite a few, and he got involved with Robert Lippert too to do some more westerns, but Lippert wanted to go away and do more sci-fi stuff. Okay. But back in the day, yes, he was,
Were the movies good?
Watch Shanghai Cobra. That was like one of his first films that he did back in 46 or 45. Shanghai Cobra was like a Charlie Chan film with Sidney Toler. Okay, and he was involved with that, Ormond, and it was really, really good. I mean, he had a great cast and everything. That was his first entry, and then he formed a production company, Western Adventures Incorporated, in 1948, and then he went out and partnered with Lash LaRue, and he did a contract with LaRue between the 1941 through 1950 for 9 years to do films with Lash LaRue, westerns. And they're like only 1 hour westerns. Those westerns were really not that long.
Okay.
But most of them had other stars in there that went on to become big, big stars. And the movies were done in the era, like for the Poverty Row, when they did Poverty Row, Eagle Lion Pictures, a lot of these other low budget production companies, B movies. They were using Cinecolor, which is another form of 3-strip Technicolor. But LaRue, he was a Cheyenne kid, and he was and he also had a singing a sidekick who was Eddie Dean, who was a singing cowboy like Gene Autry. So, and even Buster Crabbe, who did some westerns, as Fuzzy Q. Jones, and Al St. John, and a lot of these westerns, Ormond was involved with all those, and they were
he was a producer by then with most of those, wasn't he?
They were good. Yeah. So maybe Ormond should have stuck with the westerns.
Yeah, but they kind of went out of style, and people weren't watching them as much. That's kind of why he teamed up and started a new company. No,
well, you see, the problem was this. Later on in the years, he started getting the effect of the Poverty Row films and Monogram and these low-budget poverty films. And you had other actors that came into play that were doing picture westerns. Humphrey Bogart, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, just to name a few, okay? And then Republic Pictures took over the genre of the westerns in the 50s, and throughout the late 40s and all of the 50s, and it kind of put Ormond out of play with his Poverty Row low-budget westerns that he was doing with LaRue back in the early 40s.
Okay. So that's when he started his new company.
To me, I thought, if you watch some of them, they're pretty good. They're not that bad. And he was pretty elusive with the career, but I don't know, I guess doing this movie kind of like really put a black stamp on his career with everything else. I'm just like, wait a minute, But anyway, so much for that.
Wow. Yes.
Okay,
So I'm just sitting here thinking.
I guess we can go on with the plot summary, Nick, man. Otherwise, we'll be here at midnight talking about the film.
We'll hit the summary. I just have to say this. We keep saying, this movie was really the stamp of death for this person's career or that person's career. I don't think so, guys.
Yeah.
I think their careers were already dead, and this was the haunting of their careers.
Yeah. And a few of them went on and did other things afterwards.
Some of them did,
Like,
but every time y'all say, "Oh, and this was the nail in the coffin for their career," no, I think it was probably they were already in the coffin, and the coffin was already nailed shut.
This movie does have somewhat of a cult following,
Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And, I can see why. This film, it was done by, I can't remember if it was Riff Tracks or Mystery Science Theater did it. And it's more entertaining to watch when they're making comments. But, it's just such a movie.
Yeah.
So, we ready to try and have me tell y'all what happened in this movie?
Good luck.
I'm going to say, by the way, folks.
I'll give you permission to massacre the hell out of this movie.
Well, it comes pre-massacred, and I'm going to throw out there that, you know what? I'm probably going to spoil something, and it's also pre-spoiled.
Yes.
But if you want to go into this film with no knowledge of all the intricate plot twists, which don't exist, it's not intricate plot twists, it's more like accidental things that happen. But anyway, if you want to see the movie Cherry, then stop the podcast, go watch the film. It'll take you about 84 minutes, and come on back, and we'll get going again. But,
actually,
okay.
the movie's only like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that, 69 minutes, something like that. So it's just short.
Yeah, that's true. You'll probably end up rewinding it a few times to be like, did that really just happen? Is there part missing here?
Wait, yeah.
especially right at the very end of the film, I was just like, and then they're back, and I'm like, wait, what? What? Okay, so anyway, Mesa of Lost Women, the spider movie thing. Okay,
wait, what they call them? Hexapods.
Okay,
they call them
I'm
hexapods.
gonna get to that, Mary.
But they have 8 legs.
You cut me off.
Okay.
Okay, what were you about to say? The fact that hexapod implies 6 legs and they're spiders? They should have been octopods?
Yes.
Yes,
a
Mary.
Hexapod isn't a spider.
Mary.
I know.
Once again,
isn't a hexapod a fly, like a fly?
No,
well, a hexapod would be anything with 6 legs.
6 legs, and they usually have wings.
Okay.
Which would be a fly. Exactly what Juan said.
True, a form of a fly.
But my point, if it had 8 legs, it would be an arachnid.
Yes,
or if you wanted to stick to the pod thing, it would be an octopod.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, by the way, octopuses everywhere are mad at them.
I know.
Or is it octopi? I don't care. It ain't a hectopi or a hectopus. So anyway, Lord have mercy. So somebody whose hands appear like feminine hands with claws, and they're caressing
Doc Tucker.
Yeah, Doc Tucker. What the hell? And all of a sudden, we see the face of a woman, Tarantella, and a brief kiss, and then he's dead. And at that point, we start having a narration. And I love the narration here. It's, have you ever been kissed by a girl like this?
Oh.
No, I'm going to say it because he's dead. But anyway, so the narrator continues, as we pop out into the desert. And I'm going to say, Lyle Talbot was the narrator, and I'm sure that his dialogue was written down for him, but he sounds almost gleefully annoyed as he's describing what's happening here. And he's really laying into humanity and how pathetic we are and all this, and how we're about to enter the world of the war against the hexapods. And the war against the hexapods? What is it, flea and tick season? What's going on? Okay, so anyway, we're going to enter the war against the hexapods. And there's this fella out in the middle of the desert who's doing a survey for an oil company. And it just so happens as he's surveying that he sees the two main characters of the movie, Grant Phillips and Doreen Cobbleston, and they've been lost in the Muerto Desert. And Juan, what does Muerto mean?
Dead.
Dead, that's right. And so they, like the desert would imply, are nearly dead. Apparently they're extremely dehydrated and have severe sunburns, which you can't see any evidence of at all on them, but that's beside the point. So, the American surveyor and his partner Pepe bring them back to the oil, to what was it, American Execo Field Hospital somewhere in Mexico. And my favorite bit is that Grant wakes up, and the first thing the guy says, "Don't worry, you're okay. You're in an oil office." It's like, what? What? How does that make me okay? What's wrong with you people? But anyway, so they are lucky to have survived, because apparently they'd been wandering out in the desert and would have died if they hadn't just happened to wander into these people. And, the narrator's kind of like, well, let's, or actually it's Grant, and he starts telling his story. And then the narrator takes over, because the narrator in this won't shut up.
I know.
And much like the guitar, at the beginning and end of the film, it's all about the narrator. So anyway, the guitar riff plays, and we are taken back about a year or so to Zarpa Mesa, and apparently a famous scientist named Leland Masterson. I say apparently famous, not sure why he was famous or what he was really famous for.
He was famous for wearing a 3-piece suit in the desert the whole time.
I'll buy that, because that's crazy talk. But anyway, he accepts an invitation from fellow scientist Dr. Aranya. Okay, gonna pause for a second, kids. If you ever get an invitation to go out to the middle of nowhere to meet Dr. Aranya, just don't go. It's not going to end well. And more to the point, if you go anywhere to meet a scientist, and you can't see the air quotes I'm giving, so just hear them in my voice, a scientist, and that scientist lives on an isolated island, a mesa in the middle of the desert. Inside a hollowed out volcano. All of these are red flags, okay? And this guy, everything about Dr. Aranya screams red flag.
Yes.
But anyway, he invites Dr. Masterson there so he can show him his crazy experiments where he's been taking the DNA. And, let me rephrase that, because I don't think he ever actually says DNA, because that's too scientific for this movie. It's more like he takes the essence of humans and mixes it with spiders. And so he's taking tarantulas and making human women that have the instincts and abilities of these spiders. And he's actually making men and women. And as he explains to Dr. Masterson, in the insect world, the male is always puny. And so he has these, small actors who are playing the males to the lost women. And the lost women, who really aren't lost, they're more spider women.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are at the end of the day. They are theoretically indestructible. And I say theoretically indestructible because, you see him get shot a few times and, he says you can't kill them. And if you cut her arm off or whatever, it would grow back. I'm trying to figure out, that's not really an ability of spiders. But whatever. That's beside the point. And, this is one of those things where I think he was trying to create a race of beings to survive in a future world where the environment was more hostile. Or maybe he's just like every other mad scientist, and he's just trying to create a race of beings that are different from the race of beings that already exists, because why not? But anyway, so he wants Masterson to help him with his experiments, and Masterson says, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just crazy. And so, what does Dr. Aranya do? Well, he has one of his henchwomen inject him with a drug, and this turns him into kind of an idiot. And a bigger idiot than the guy wearing a three-piece suit who drove out to meet Dr. Aranya in the middle of the desert. But that's beside the point. So anyway, we see a headline, and it's famous Dr. Masterson found wandering in the desert, blah, blah, blah. And he's been committed to a psychiatric hospital because he's bonkers. Now, some unspecified amount of time later, Masterson escapes from the Muerto State Asylum once again. So it's the Death State Asylum. All right. But, a couple of days later, he's in this little American town. I guess it's right on the U.S.-Mexico border. And he enters a cafe. And also in this cafe is businessman John Bancroft and his fiancée Doreen, and they're headed to Mexico for their wedding. And boy, is she not really that excited about it. And he's kind of, I don't know, I'm not very impressed with him anyway. But it's very obvious that she is what's the best way to put this, a trophy wife. And this guy's rich, and he's got his private plane, but the private plane had to land because it had engine trouble.
She's a gold digger, isn't she?
Jan's servant Wu is suddenly exchanging glances with Tarantella, which is Aranya's chief female spider henchwoman, who for some reason is there in the cantina, and she's dancing the spider hoochie coo dance, and there's some kind of communication sort of eyeball to eyeball going on with Wu. Meanwhile, Masterson comes in, and he just invites himself over and sits down at the table with them. Oh, sure, why not? Well, about that time, Tarantella starts doing her dance, and as I said, it really does remind me of the dance that Wednesday Addams does in like one of the episodes of the Wednesday show on Netflix. But that's neither here nor there. So yes.
I had to Google spider legs. I just Googled it. It said if a spider is unfortunate to lose a leg, it still has one molt left in its life, it can regrow a new leg. In most species, the new leg is thinner and shorter than the original leg. It can take 2 or 3 molts until the regenerated limb matches the original in appearance. I didn't even know spiders molted.
I knew spiders molted. I didn't realize they could regenerate limbs. So there you go.
Boy, am I
guess,
have nightmares.
okay, ladies and gentlemen, I admit that Mesa of Lost Women had more direct scientific knowledge of spiders in this instance than I do. I stand corrected. Thank you, Mary. of all the facts to double check for me, that's the one. I appreciate it.
Really curious.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to have nightmares because now I know they can grow their legs back.
Mary, don't worry. The spiders that are in your house are not regrowing their legs. They're planting their eggs in your hair while you're asleep.
Stop.
See, now that's evil. You're laughing now, but that's going to come back to you tonight. But anyway,
calling you at 3 in the morning.
So all spider molting aside, Masterson comes over and sits down with them, and he's just sort of ditzy looking. He has this goofy smile on his face, and he's recognized Tarantella, and so he just pulls out a handgun and shoots her. It's like, oh, okay, sure, why not? And bear in mind, George, his male nurse, has managed to track him down. Don't know how he tracked him down, but he tracked him down.
Because he's Roman.
Well, that has nothing. Okay. So anyway, and he's not Roman. That was a step up for him. He has been downgraded in this film.
This is true.
Okay. So anyway, so Masterson just takes Jan, his fiancée Doreen, Wu, and his faithful nurse George, takes them all hostage and says, I want to go on an airplane. And so they drive out to the airfield. And by the way, these people had Stockholm Syndrome from the get-go, because anybody who didn't think they could disarm that ditzy-ass dude is... my God, you've got to be really asleep at the wheel to be kidnapped by Masterson when he's in his I'm high as a kite grinning phase, which is the rest of the movie. So anyhow, you get to the plane, and Grant, the pilot, is, he's like, well, the engine's not really fully functional. And he's like, I'm not going to take it up in the air. And so, of course, Masterson says, I want to fly. And so he makes them all get in the plane and fly. And so I guess they're heading to their original destination in Mexico. Unfortunately, somebody has sabotaged the gyro compass, resulting in them flying 100 degrees in the wrong direction. And at that point, you got this kind of look passes over Wu's face. And it's like, okay, so obviously he did it. But anyhow, somehow or other, Wu managed to not only have them fly in the wrong direction, but had them fly in the wrong direction directly to the Zarpa Mesa or whatever in the Muerto Desert. And they crashed on top of the mesa, and that's where Aranya's creations are expecting them. And, okay, there are so many things going on here with how did Aranya arrange for Masterson to be at the cantina so he could see Tarantella and shoot her so that then Wu could be conveniently there with his rich boss and his rich boss's fiance, and they could have an airplane that could take Wu and Masterson back to the Mesa. Oh my God!
Why did he want Masterson in the first place?
Do what?
Why did he want Masterson in the first place?
Because Masterson had some knowledge about human, I'm going to say something to do with the human pituitary system, but I don't think this movie bothered to look up what the pituitary system is. So I'm just going to say he had some secret knowledge that Aranya wanted. Because remember, he wouldn't help Aranya, so Aranya injected him with stupid serum, because that's how you get somebody who's a super smart scientist to help you, is you make them stupid.
Oh, okay.
So anyway,
why did he want the rich guy and his
Mary, stop. He just did.
Okay.
I've gone into this. How did he pre-plant Wu with this guy? I mean, what? Does this guy have just this wild network of spies working with everyone who's rich enough to have a private plane?
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. I don't know. Doesn't seem like Dr. Aranya has it all together, though.
That's true.
So anyway, Dr. Aranya, somehow all of these convenient things just come together in a massive pile of coincidence that results in them being crashed on top of the mesa where Dr. Aranya's lost women, a.k.a. the Spider Women, live. Meanwhile, Grant is becoming quickly infatuated with Doreen, and Doreen is becoming quickly infatuated with Grant. Meanwhile, Doreen's fiance, the rich dude, is becoming whinier and whinier. Meanwhile, Dr. Masterson is becoming stupider and stupider to the point that he actually hands his gun to Wu so Wu can go off into the woods looking for a comb that is a quote-unquote family heirloom of Jan's.
That was a corker. A comb, an antique comb that has, what the hell, man? How did that get into the plot?
It got into the plot because it was an excuse to get Wu away from the group, apparently give him the gun, and nobody even bothers to punch Masterson out. You know, they're just like, oh, okay, you're just going to be here, and yeah, sure, why not? Oh, by the way, at some point, George...
Nick, real quick, that Masterson... Since he took out the gun at the cantina and shot Tarantella, okay, he held that gun throughout the whole time, from the cantina to the airfield, on the plane, he had it out. When they landed, the whole time until he gave it to Wu, he had it out. He had the gun. He had it. He was holding the gun. He said, "What the hell is he?" And you're thinking, he's still got the gun. He's still holding it out. He hasn't put it away. He still has the gun. It's like, wow, that's really weird.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Well, now at this point, Wu has got the he's got the gun, and he goes off into the into the wood, into the jungle. Which, because of course, there's a jungle on top of the mesa in the middle of the desert.
Yes.
But anyway, he goes off into the jungle. And he is immediately picked up by Aranya's people, and he is, you're doing a great job, Wu, and let's bring them in. No, I think I'll do something different. Okay, we kill you now. And so they kill, Wu, plant his body back out in the woods. By the way, George, the male nurse, has been killed horribly earlier on.
I can't remember.
Grant goes out, finds the body, finds the gun, because of course they return the gun. He comes back, here's your stupid comb. Doreen leaves Jan so she can be with Grant, even though they've only known each other for 20 minutes, whatever. They now have the undying love that forms quickly in movies because it's convenient. So at this point, Aranya's Spider Women show up. Jan runs off into the woods because he's scared, runs into the actual spider. And at this point, we actually see the spider. There it is up on the side of the hill. Ooh, scary. Well, it kills him. And it must apparently kill him just by looking at him, because it sure as hell wasn't moving. But anyway, nobody's mourning the loss of Jan. So they get taken to Dr. Aranya's lab. And at this point, it's just Doreen, Grant, and Masterson, because everybody else is dead. And Aranya sort of lays out his plan. And then he says, now I will give Dr. Masterson something to make him normal again. Oh, okay. So he does. Dr. Masterson is like, I will never help you. And he grabs a bottle of liquid. And he's like, now I will destroy you all. Get out of here, Grant and Doreen. So Grant and Doreen run off. And Masterson throws his bottle down and apparently sets fire to the whole mesa.
Yes.
Doreen and Grant escape, apparently severely sunburned, although you really don't see it on them. And they are going to go off and lead a life of religious fulfillment if the spider people don't kill us all. And of course, the narrator decides to pop up again at the end. and his commentary is so delightful. I am now going to play the end narration by Lyles Halbert for this film.
I've just been telling them our story. They don't buy it.
What do you think he did?
Es verdad. That's the truth.
Now, don't worry about it. You're going to be all right in a couple of days. Just a little too much sun on the bare head. Anybody thinks I'm going to load one of my trucks with oil and send it up on top of a mountain to burn a bunch of imaginary spiders?
Yes, you're right, Dan. Common sense tells you there isn't anything to his story, doesn't it? Giant spiders on a desert mesa. Fantastic. Pepe is just a superstitious native. True, no one has ever been on Sapra Mesa, but it's just like any other bit of tableland. Not a thing different about it. Or is there?
So there you have it. Pepe gets basically screwed over again by the narrator, who's constantly laying Pepe out in this. So what did he have against Pepe?
I don't know.
But anyway, that is Mesa of Lost Women, and I don't know what the hell just happened.
Okay.
I need to watch it again.
Why?
Oh my God.
And drink this time.
Okay, that's a viable alternative. So I'm going to say, do we have any feedback, Mary? Because I don't want to talk about this movie anymore.
Very little.
Oh, okay.
You're going to have to talk about the movie.
No, we can just stop.
You really do have to watch this movie. It's like
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. Once in your life, you have to watch this movie.
No, you don't have to watch it, Mary. You could do so many things with your life. You don't have to watch this movie. It was fun to watch.
Yes.
Especially when you've been drinking.
Yes.
But I'm not going to throw out the imperative that you have to watch this movie.
Okay.
Come on, Mary. Okay. Really? Do you have to watch it?
Yeah. You know me, I can usually find like really something good in a movie, but I'm really having trouble with this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, that's why they call it a grade Z, not a grade B, you know, or anything. It's like, I tell you what, some people say that this movie is worse than Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah.
And Plan 9, you know, it's really, it's a B grade, low, like, you know, but this one really tops it off.
Yeah.
At least Plan 9 had a somewhat of a plot with the phony flying saucers and the Bela Lugosi, Tor Johnson walking through the woods trying to, you know, but this movie here with the way it was broken down to, you like, you know, the airplane, the jungle, the desert, you know, it's like, again,
so confusing.
Watch The Beast of Yucca Flats and you'll get the same thing.
Word.
Yeah. I mean, that whole hospital scene didn't need to happen. Because I just ended up getting those people confused with all the other people in this movie. There were so many characters in this movie.
There were?
Yeah.
No, there weren't.
It sure confused me.
There were just a lot of people that's faces showed up.
Yeah, and...
They weren't characters, Mary. They were just faces.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the feedback.
Okay, like I said, it's very little feedback. This one is, excuse me. This one's from Andrew Gwynn, says, good day. The image on the website is from Jack Frost, made famous from MST3K. It came out in 1964 abroad, but it was re-released English dubbed in 1966. Continue the great work. And that's from Andrew Gwynn. Thank you, Andrew. And Dax Bradley sent a little note that says, Father Frost, 1964. Seems Nick is on a Soviet kick.
Da, comrade.
And that's it.
Oh,
okay.
I know.
I was short.
I know.
Well, that's okay,
I'm
Mary.
sad.
This movie was short, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
I'll try to make the next movie not as Z as this one.
Thank you.
You know,
Hey, that's
it'll
all
be a
right,
little bit
Juan.
better.
This
I'll try
was
to
a
make
good
it
movie
a
to
B
watch.
to an A blockbuster. How's that?
The what?
I'll try to make it from a B to an A blockbuster.
Oh, okay. Okay, that sounds good.
There you go.
It's just something I can follow the storyline.
Okay,
Well, we
that
did it.
would
Thanks,
be an episode of SpongeBob.
No. They needed to do the spider more in this movie.
Mary.
I mean, it was an awful looking spider, but still, you never saw a spider.
Okay, you saw it twice. One point, well, you saw its leg a few times.
Yeah.
And you saw it kind of wearing a dress at one point.
Real.
He looks behind the screen and it's kind of there and there's like a dress laying next to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get the impression the idea was that it was turning into a woman at some point. And then, later you got when it kills John or Jan or however you say his name. But yeah, Mary, showing the spider requires what does it require?
Money.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to say they didn't show the spider because they didn't have the money to show the spider.
Aww.
The spider's sitting there going, "Show me the money."
Yeah. They went through all the trouble building a spider. They should have showed it more.
Okay, Mary. They aren't going to show it if it looked terrible.
Mm.
Okay, that's just a bad idea.
True. Yep. When was this movie made? 53.
It was released in 53.
That's right.
It was made in 52.
51.
As the copyright gleefully announces at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you.
Thank Brian for me.
For a 70-year-old movie, I think, it's still, showing the effects of time and everything, and basically what our low-grade movies, with very little money, were made back in the 1950s, throughout the 50s, because this was not the only one. And besides Plan 9, and there was many, many others that were, poverty road type films that were done by low budget motion picture companies that were just out there to make a quick buck and, put a movie together a la Roger Corman. That's how Roger Corman did his beginnings. He started low budget and putting movies together for a couple $1,000s, and look at all the ones that he did that went on to become major hits. In the end, he became king of the B movies in the 50s. Corman, as we know today, had a tremendous career, but he was in the lines of Orman and some of these other directors that before that time in the early period wanted to try to make some of these movies work.
He tried. I'll give him that.
I just looked up, they filmed this movie in Red Rock Canyon, which Roy Rogers did stuff there. And
yeah, because it's a day drive out of Hollywood.
Okay.
It's not because it's an amazing, it is a good location, but there's nobody out there to say you can't film.
Yeah.
So it's cheap.
Yeah.
You want to make a movie cheap, make it in the desert.
Yeah. But
either the desert or out in the woods. Those are your two cheapest locations.
Right. Very little money that needs to make it. I know.
All right.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I reckon we're done talking about this film. I think I'm going to go drink now.
Yes. That's a good idea.
Right. I think I'll have one myself here after this movie. Well, anyway. But listen, I want to thank you guys for having me back on again.
Yes.
And doing this crazy movie. I thought it was fun. Talking about the characters and everything. So hopefully the listeners will enjoy listening to this podcast here.
Hopefully. Yes.
All right.
I reckon so.
And I still think everybody
thanks,
needs
guys.
to
It was
watch
good talking to y'all.
Yes.
All right. Take care, Nick. Take care, Mary.
You too.
Hasta
Enjoy
la
your
vista.
new house.
I will. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Desert de Muerto.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Adios, Mafia.
Well, they've gone.
For good, John?
No, just for now. It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless, hungry.
All right, fellas, here's your story.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
Wait, Captain. I have found evidence of intelligent beings on this planet.
Look to the skies. It's the B-Movie Cookbook. Menus inspired by 15 of your favorite B-movies from the 1950s, with teenage werewolves, blobs, and enough cheese for everyone.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
But until then, we've got Ed Wood and Vincent Price.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
So impress your friends with dinner and a movie with the B-Movie Cookbook. We've got you covered. Get your copy today at bmoviecookbook.com. That's bmoviecookbook.com.
Let me see that book. I am interested to see what sways your mind so heavily.
Sure thing. Just visit bmoviecookbook.com.
Anybody around here want some coffee?
Transmission.
The good guys always win, even in the 80s.